So you're tuning in, trying to figure out what's really going on with Shark Tank India. Is it genuinely a boost for startups?
Or is there maybe more to the story?
Exactly. That's what we're digging into today. We're looking at this pretty eye-opening piece from Biz Unfiltered.
Yeah, and what's interesting right off the bat is that Biz Unfiltered really goes after that core question.
Which
Well,
is,
beyond all the excitement we see on screen, what's the actual impact? Is it truly about, like, building businesses?
or is the main goal maybe just making captivating television?
Precisely.
Right. And this excerpt, it raises some pretty pointed questions,
Mm.
especially around those big 1 crore deals. Let me check that.
Yeah, that's roughly $120,000 USD.
Mm-hmm.
It really makes you wonder if the success stories, keep going once the cameras are off.
Yeah, definitely.
So our mission today basically is to cut through the hype a bit and understand if Shark Tank India is genuinely empowering these ventures.
Or if it's mostly serving up entertainment.
That's the crux of it. And if you think about the bigger picture, for anyone following the startup scene,
Yeah.
a show with this kind of visibility, it can really shape perceptions. It might even influence where investment actually goes.
Good point. So understanding its true nature is, well, pretty crucial.
It is.
In the Biz Unfiltered piece, it definitely takes a more, let's say, critical stance.
It does. It sort of draws a line between those really memorable TV moments,
Mm-hmm.
the intense negotiations, the drama,
The pitches.
and the actual, like, long-term viability of the businesses involved. It kind of suggests those two things might not always line up. Which brings up an important point, right? How do we even define success for a startup that goes on the show?
Is it just about landing that initial investment, getting the check?
Or is it about, sustained growth, profitability, way down the line? Biz Unfiltered seems to hint they might be different things.
Okay, and what about valuations? We hear these huge numbers sometimes.
Yeah.
Are they always based on, like, solid business fundamentals?
Or could some of it be amplified, for the sake of making a more exciting show?
Because there is pressure to make a good TV, after all.
That's a really key point. Sometimes that need to create compelling television, it might lead to deal announcements that just generate buzz
Right.
and maybe involve valuations that aren't entirely, well, grounded in reality.
Which could cause problems later.
Yeah, that can definitely create challenges down the road if the company's performance doesn't really match up to those initial big expectations.
And the excerpt also touches on something else. The idea that founders might actually face struggles after their moment in the spotlight fades.
Right, they get this incredible national exposure, maybe even the funding,
But then what? What if the business model isn't really sustainable long term?
or the promised mentorship, maybe it doesn't fully materialize in the way they expected.
That's a tough spot.
And building on that, if the show's primary focus really is on crafting those engaging narratives, the emotional pitches, the back and forth with the sharks.
Which makes for great TV.
Exactly. Then the long-term health and actual success of the startups featured could potentially become sort of a secondary consideration.
Okay, so pulling it all together, this look at the Biz Unfiltered perspective, it really highlights a core tension, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
We see this exciting image, startups getting this huge boost on national television.
But there's this underlying question.
Hmm.
Is that the whole picture?
Or does the entertainment factor sometimes just take precedence?
Exactly. The source really makes us pause and think.
Hmm.
Does all that massive visibility genuinely translate into, like, lasting benefits for these startups beyond just appearing on the show?
Are those high valuations we hear about always realistic?
And are we seeing the full journey? Or are there maybe potential difficulties, struggles that just aren't part of the broadcast?
Right. Which leaves us, and you listening, with this thought to consider. Given this blend, this mix of the business world and the demands of entertainment TV, what do you see as the main value or maybe the biggest potential pitfall of a show like Shark Tank India when you think about the broader startup landscape?
It's definitely something worth mulling over.